I recently started a job as a wilderness therapy guide for troubled teens. I'm working at a company called Second Nature. It's in Duchesne. And so for 8 days at a time, I will go into the woods and like help these teenagers who are struggling with addiction or who have like parent issues or violence issues or some sort of thing like that, and just like help them like reconnect with themselves through being alone out in the woods for long periods of time and talking about their feelings with other people their age. And the job is a blast. And I don't want to go into like tons of detail about the job itself, but I want to talk about one particular aspect of the job that has become quite humorous to me, and that has to do with how we do our business in the woods, like how we use the restroom. All of the kids are required to go poop in a latrine that we dig. So we dig a big trench, and that's like where they're supposed to do it. But for privacy reasons, the staff, like me and the other staff, are not allowed to use the latrine. We have to like do our own thing out in the woods. So we'll just kind of like walk out of camp. We'll let the other staff know that we're going, and then we just like go and then we do it. And theoretically, it should be really simple, right? Like human beings have been like pooping outside for tens of thousands of years, right? And so you'd think that like mistakes wouldn't be made, but like I think the years and years that our race has spent in civilization has made us less effective at accomplishing what should be a very simple task. So I've actually got two stories. They're both really short. The first one is like I'm the butt end of the joke. So I just put all of the kids in my group to bed. So they're all in their sleeping bags under their shelters, and they're all going to sleep. And when we get new students, we're always worried that someone's going to run away. Like it's a really common thing for the kids to just like panic or get upset and then just like take off. And so at nighttime, to prevent kids from running away, we put them inside of a bivvy, like a small tent. They're sleeping bags inside of a bivvy tent. And we put Velcro over the zipper so it's not easy to get the zipper down. And then we put a bell on it that jingles so that if they try to like get themselves out of the bivvy, like it'll wake up the staff who's sleeping like a few feet away from them, so that we can just make sure that nobody tries to sneak out in the middle of the night. And so we've got I'm in a very like young group where like there's a lot of new kids, and so we have like five kids who are inside of these bivvies with these bells on them. And we tell them like, hey, if you need to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, just like shake that bell and we'll wake up and we'll unzip you so you can go to the bathroom. And I've put the kids to bed, and usually like I'll read for a minute or like dink around on my cell phone or something before I actually go to sleep while all the other kids are falling asleep. And after I've been reading for a while, I was just like thinking like, I feel kind of dirty. I think today I'm going to swap my clothes. Like I'm going to put on a fresh pair of pajamas and a fresh pair of underwear. So I sneak off, and all the kids I'm assuming are asleep at this point. And I go behind, not super far from them, because I'm not supposed to like leave them unattended. So I only go like 2 trees away. I'm like behind a tree, and I start to change into these pajamas. And just as I get undressed, I get the urge to use the restroom. And I was like, okay, like I think that I could get dressed fast enough to like still have time to go to the bathroom. But it was like one of those times where it's like I needed to go very soon. And as I was sitting there thinking about it, I was like, well, if I get dressed, it's just going to be that much harder to go poop, because then I'll have like the pants down at my ankles. So what if I just like stay naked to like finish the job? So I go like 1 more tree away. So I leave my clothes under tree number 2. I'm now 3 trees away from the kids. And I start doing my business. I dig myself a cat hole. And as I'm relieving myself, a thunder strikes, and a storm cloud very quickly comes like over me. And I start getting drenched. So I'm not wearing anything. I'm like trying to use the restroom, and it's raining on me. And so I like try to get like the toilet paper out, but the toilet paper's getting rained on, and it's like really ineffective. And so I'm like I'm like freaking out because I was like, I need to get back to these kids. I've already been along from them for too long. And a few minutes, like I'm just like finishing up going to the restroom. I haven't gotten dressed yet, and I hear some kid ringing his bell, like ding, 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 like, and they're yelling like, Justin, Justin, I need to go pee. And like, they're ringing the bell, and they're waking up everyone in camp. So all of my coworkers and everybody like starts getting out of their sleeping bags and turning on their headlamps and is looking around like, where the heck is Justin? And why isn't he letting this kid out of his sleeping bag? And so they let the kid out to go to the bathroom, and then they start searching for me through the woods. And so I'm still like, I'm at tree number 3, and my clothes are at tree number 2, which is towards them. So I'm like putting myself at risk of being seen if I go there. And so I just stay put, and I'm just hiding in this tree, and I'm getting wetter and wetter. Like I'm completely drenched. And I'm like, they like start to come closer to me, and I'm like shifting around the tree, like to the other side so that they can't see me. And finally they're like, that's weird that Justin's not here. They eventually went back to their shelters. And I'm like, and then I like hurried to like go get my clothes, and my clothes are all sopping wet at this point. And I kind of put them up underneath the trees so they're not like they're not getting wet super fast. And so like I'm just like, what clothes are the most accessible that I can like put on right now? And the only thing, like the first thing that was like grabbable was my cowboy hat. And so I put my cowboy hat on because it was keeping me dry from the rain. But just as I'm doing that, one of our we have like a staff that sleeps out in his truck and like delivers things late at night if we need something like in an emergency. And I don't know why he was there, but he pulled up and his headlights like were pointing right towards the tree I was hiding in. And so now I only have a cowboy hat on, and I'm still skirting around this tree and like hiding from somebody again. And I'm like slowly like trying to like a ninja put my clothes back on because I don't want anyone to hear me and come find me. And I did eventually get dressed, and nobody saw me, but it was like my heart was just like, oh, the entire time, like somebody was gonna come see me. But no, I got back in bed. I was dripping wet. Luckily, my sleeping bag was dry, and so like I was only partially wet for the night, and I had a terrible night's sleep, but otherwise did not get caught while I was naked. And I thought that was a bad story. Like when that happened to me, I was like, oh man, like this is awful. But my coworker the very next day probably one upped me in awkwardness when going pooping in the woods. The next day was Sunday, and so like I'm assuming most of the audience is a Latter-day Saint, and so we're not having church services right now, but most bishoprics have told like everyone, like if you want to have a sacrament meeting, like anywhere that there's a priesthood holder, you can like bless the water and bread and have like a mini sacrament meeting. And so when I'm on shift over a Sunday, I do this for myself, and I'll tell the other staff team, hey, I'm just gonna take off for like 20 minutes. There's just like a church thing I've got to do, and they're understanding and they let me leave. And so I walk out into the woods, and I set up 3 rocks to make a little like sacrament table, and I have a piece of pita bread I put on the rock and a little Nalgene bottle, and like that's my sacrament meeting. And I was like trying to like think of how I was going to do it. I was like, okay, I'm going to say like an opening prayer, then I'm going to sing myself a little hymn, and then I'm going to like have the sacrament meeting. And I start like praying, not saying the sacrament prayer, but like just this opening prayer. It's just like silently in my head, and I hear footsteps behind me. And like I finish my prayer, and then I like look behind me, and one of my female coworkers has just squatted down like opposite the tree that I'm like hiding behind. And so I'm just like kneeling there, and I just hear I hear someone behind me. I look behind, and I just see her drop her pants and squat down, and I'm just like, whoo! I just like looked the other direction, and I'm like, okay, like she hasn't seen me yet, and so if I just wait here, then eventually I'll be able to continue what I'm doing. But like I don't want to like keep looking back to check if she's still there, because I don't want to like invade her privacy. So I'm just looking forward and my ears are just on high alert listening to her poop. I just like, I hear everything and there's no way for me to like get out of there without her knowing that I'm there. And so I just stay on my knees, and my knees started hurting and my legs were falling asleep. And so I couldn't take it any longer because my legs were hurting so bad. And so finally I was just like, I'm just going to get up and sneak away. And I just like get up, and I hear her shift and immediately look at me, and I just like run off into the woods. And yeah, we had a good laugh about it later. She was a good sport about it, and yeah, it was fun. So those are my stories about business.
Oh my gosh. So your back was to her the whole time?
Correct. Except for that one moment that I looked over my shoulder.
How did she not see you?
Well, I was just kneeling down, and I was wearing earth tone clothes. In fact, my pants were camo, and I was wearing a brown cowboy hat, and then my shirt was like a gray color. And so like I was pretty well camouflaged, and I was praying, so I wasn't making any noise. I was just sitting there, so she just didn't notice that I was there. And she was facing the other way too. She had faced the other way too, so like our faces weren't towards each other.
Okay. So this was the one time the cowboy hat would have been really useful.
Right. Exactly.
Dang.